co-chairs of the committee to ensure that they feel that what we've done is ready to take to the full steering committee. Then, as you well know, since you facilitate the steering committee, you take the steering committee through that process, and that gets reviewed again. And then the third round of community input is what we're doing tonight, the public. We will take all the public's comments back, share them with the co-chairs of the committee, share and ask them how we should adjust the goals, and then take that back to the steering committee for their endorsement. So it's a continuous cycle process of feedback, adjustment, feedback, and adjustment. And although we're dealing with the big picture items tonight, the goals and the vision and the values, we'll do the same process on all the detailed recommendations as well as we move through this planning process.
Thank you, John. And we'll move on now to review the preliminary vision, values, and goals. We will begin with the preliminary goals because they are the pillars, the legs of the plan. As Tim said in his presentation, the goals must be realistic, results-oriented, and measurable. These goals were agreed upon by the steering committee, as you heard John just mention, and they are being presented tonight for your feedback. As you can see, there are 12 goals, and I will read aloud each one now, and then I will ask for your feedback on each goal. These goals are not ranked. I just gave them a number for easier reference during tonight's meeting. As you hear and read these goals, please type your comments in the Q&A box. So here are the goals, the legs of this plan. They are respect, celebrate, and build upon the diverse history of North Central. Create a healthy, whole, beautiful, and well-maintained neighborhood. Rehab existing homes and provide a diversity of new infill homes. Support and assist North Central residents to remain in place and build wealth and social capital. Promote and incentivize the creation of viable and existing community businesses and entrepreneurship. Connect and engage the neighborhoods to jobs, everyday youth and senior services, and cultural and recreational activities. Improve neighborhood safety for all residents and visitors. Attract and provide access to high-quality recreational, educational, health, and civic amenities and programs. Improve and enhance public and social infrastructure and public services in North Central. Establish clear communication and accountability with the City of St. Louis. Establish a participatory decision-making process for residents to guide the future of the community. And last but not least, ensure equity, inclusivity, resilience, sustainability, and justice for all residents. So those are the preliminary goals. And now I will take each one, and if you have any comments and or questions, please type them in the Q&A box. Again, the first one is about history. Respect, celebrate, and build upon the diverse history of North Central. Any comments about that goal? And again, I know this is a lot all at once, so you do have time. You have a week to get back to us by going online and giving your feedback if you want time to think about what is being presented tonight. I don't see any comments or questions, so we will go to the next goal, which is create a healthy, whole, beautiful, and well-maintained neighborhood. Any comments or questions about this particular goal? Seeing none, I will move to the third one. Rehab existing homes and provide a diversity of new infill homes. Any comments or questions about that goal? And the same thing, just so you know, that I'm doing now with you, I facilitated the meeting with the steering committee, and we went through each goal and wordsmithed some, added some. And this is what you are seeing tonight. You should be confident that you have a great steering committee made up of neighborhood residents and stakeholders from neighborhoods covered in Blue Grand Center and Vandeventer neighborhoods, and they represent the North Central community very well because they are very engaged. So I see a question. How is healthy neighborhood? What does a healthy neighborhood look like? Need more details, John.
A good question. And a healthy neighborhood and healthy and whole means that the neighborhood can sustain people with a high quality of life. So it's really very supportive of the community and the type of amenities one has. So that's the one side, the people side. And the other obviously is being healthy, is ecological health, having good landscaping, being just a really very pleasant place to live and have a family.
I see another question, and it is this an historic district in order to have access to HTC, historic tax credits?
It is not formally a historic district at this stage. There are many historic components within the district and landmarks, but as a collective neighborhood, no, it is not a historic district.
Let me see, I'm reading these questions. So, we're going back to number 3. Someone has a question about, which is rehab existing homes and provide a diversity of new infill homes. And this person says, number 3 is a bit fuzzy because there are many developments trying to rehab homes for decades. Why now?
Well, a couple of things. It's always better to, assuming the homes are appropriate for today's time, it's always better to rehab a home and keep the historical character of the neighborhood and that history together. So, you know, the value of rehabbing, the other component of it, it still might be in ownership and needs a modest amount of rehab to make it a very quality place for people. So it is important to, in a neighborhood, to have both components. But certainly it ends up at an individual incremental decision per home, per street, as we'll move through the planning process. But I think as an overall goal, you don't want to go down, you don't want to go into the neighborhood and remove homes just because they're a little bit derelict at this stage. Clearly some homes have been removed and do need to be removed, but there are some that could be maintained. And that sense of the authenticity of the community, the history of the community can continue, and integrating new and old seems to make a more character community.
Thank you.
I should add one other thing, that
Sure.
the idea of the rehab homes comes very strongly through the opportunities and the aspirations as well. So we got a lot of input into the ability to rehab homes, and certainly the steering committee felt they didn't want to go in there and just remove the current homes at all.
Great. I'm now going to read aloud again goal number 4, and we have a question regarding goal number 4. Support and assist North Central residents to remain in place and build wealth and social capital. And John, the question is, does this include removing payday loan businesses and check cashing places that don't offer opportunity for wealth building for Black and Brown people?
Number 4 is very much about talking to the ability of the residents to stay in place and not be moved out for any gentrification purpose. And the the other part of this, of building wealth and social capital, the comment is really very astute relative to loan business and payday checking. It's difficult without an overall citywide public policy to remove businesses from there, but it is fully acknowledged and understood the implications for payday and check cashing on Black and brown communities. So this will be something that we will be taking back to the steering committee and asking for a very clear policy direction on. But a very, very astute question.
Here's another question. What does wealth building look like for North Central STL?
Well, we have to work on that, but what it does mean, it does mean as the neighborhood gets redeveloped, people who've been there for many, many years can stay in place. There's not the gentrification of the neighborhood, and as the neighborhood appreciates in capital value, so to speak, they can benefit from that. But it's not only capital it's the social capital. As more people move in and they participate and create the sense of community. You know, this has been very, very interesting to see the strength of your neighborhood, community camaraderie, caring neighborhoods, neighborhood location, your aspirations, community building. So the value of you all collectively creating community has everyone's talked about as being instrumental and a core value of your neighborhood. So,
John, we need you to speak up. We lost you. Your voice became very low, and it was important what you were saying about community camaraderie.
So there are two parts to it. There's the economic building of wealth through the neighborhood capital value as you redevelop the neighborhood. That's one component. The second component is the social capital. And when you look at what you've all written about your strength of your neighborhood, community camaraderie, caring neighborhoods, your aspirations, community building house, the social capital, how you all come together as a community and support each other is vital to continue. And that we'll see that I'm going to jump to number 11, you'll see why we're emphasizing the participatory decision-making, that you keep that sense of community going. It is incredibly valuable to you all.
Absolutely, thank you. We will go on to the next goal because I'm looking and I don't see any other additional. I have Alderwoman Marlene Davis. I'm calling you out because you're going to explain. She just said she would like to quickly explain legislative position on payday loan. So go ahead, Alderwoman Davis.
I think I'll have to unmute.
Okay, yes, that would help, wouldn't it? Can you do that, Gabriella? I'm seeing.
All right, I've just asked to unmute.
Alderwoman Davis, I think you're good to go now.
Oh, you'll have to unmute yourself on your computer on the bottom of your Zoom panel.
I forgot. There we go.
There we go.
It happens to all of us all the time.
And after you do it about 6 hours out of the day, you just.
I understand.
Yeah. So quickly, I'll share with you that legislation was passed for the city of St. Louis about 5 years ago. And we have put a strong stipulation on payday loan offices to open. It's like a $5,000 fee to open an office for payday loans. Those that were already open, they went through some strenuous building and inspection processes and other things. And then we also took a lot of time to try to find more people with a better understanding of banking. And so I can say personally that we have thousands of new people who are banking now instead of using those. But again, it's a culture that has to be erased by the people. If they stop using those businesses, they will leave.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
All right.
Okay, we're going to go to the fifth goal, and then John, we have a question after that. The fifth goal is about businesses and entrepreneurship, and it reads, promote and incentivize the creation of viable and existing community businesses and entrepreneurship. The question is, what do incentives look like for business and business owners? John.
Thank you. We haven't defined those yet. And we will have to define those as we move forward, to be clear. The community really does value having jobs and businesses, particularly neighborhood businesses in there. And we find it very much in the aspirations. So the feedback we've got from everyone is that, can we facilitate greater business development and entrepreneurship? This ties slightly to the next one, because there has been great sensitivity to youth in the neighborhood and the ability to create a culture of and the opportunity for work and entrepreneurship for youth. So these two are a little bit combined, but a direct correlation is the opportunity that your community feels is there's greater opportunity for business development, and their aspiration is we want more jobs and business in and around the neighborhood.
And speaking of goal number 6, which is connect and engage the neighborhoods to jobs, everyday youth and senior services, as well as cultural and recreational activities.
And Lorna, may I jump in here and just support that again? What's very interesting is the idea that not only are you an amazing community in terms of camaraderie, you're perfectly located in the sort of the center heart of St. Louis. When you think of the opportunities, if we can connect people, not only physically connect, institutionally connect in the sense of jobs. If you think of the big job bases that you have in and around your community, from the arts district to the educational institutions to the new NGA, a short ride from downtown, and then of course Cortex and the medical institutions. So it's not just that it's a physical connection, and what we're trying to say is, and that's why the steering committee was very clear about adding the word engage as well. So it's not a physical connection, it's also engage people and give them the opportunity, because there's a vast amount in and around you as well.
Thank you for making that point. That is true. The next goal is improve neighborhood safety for all residents and visitors. Let me see if there. Question regarding this. How can you ensure safety for STL with low police engagement and heightened gun violence? That's question number 1.
We can't guarantee safety, obviously, but what we can begin to do is think of neighborhood safety, things that are within the opportunity of the neighborhood. One, things such as neighbors looking after neighbors being very, very important, watching out for each other, the quality of street lights in your neighborhood. But then, of course, again, I'm going to go on to that we're not intending to have everything solved at the end of the plan, but there's part of a process that has to continue. And full engagement with security and the police force for accountability to your neighborhood is going to be vitally important to have that ongoing desire to improve safety.
And this person has a follow-up question. What are the plans to remove the Delmar divide that blocks resources for North St. Louis and safety provisions?
Again, I'm just sorry, I'm just quickly looking. The Delmar divide came up in the very first public outreach we've done. It's well acknowledged. Again, we will be dealing with this issue a little bit more as we go into the physical planning improvements, but there's full acknowledgement of the Delmar divide and the need that this plan overcomes that divide in a profound and important way. We don't have the answers yet on that, but this is everyone has spoken about it, and it's vitally important of how and where we target reinvestment and how we think through that is going to be instrumental.
Thank you. We'll go on to goal number 8, which is about amenities and programs. And it reads, attract and provide access to high quality recreational, educational, health, and civic amenities and programs. Any comments or questions about this goal? Okay, seeing none. The next goal is improve and enhance public and social infrastructure and public services in North Central. And there is a question for number 8, the previous goal, which is about amenities and programs. And the question is, John, what plans are in place for recreation and education when you have a low budget, small budget?
Well, a lot of that, what's interesting, the work Action St. Louis is doing, who is doing the door-to-door survey, the community well-being survey, and if you all haven't taken it, please take it. One of the interesting things that have come out of that is the sense of the community that prefer an increased number of parks, as an example, as we move forward. But again, the sense is there's schools in the area, there's health in the area. They want to be able to provide access. So the very important component in this is the word access in 8, is that the sense that although they not necessarily in your neighborhood, but they're adjacent to you, there's a sense you don't have access to them. So opening the doors and making you feel that they gain this sense of connectivity. Obviously, not every single neighborhood can provide every single amenity, but it's important that everyone who lives in the neighborhood feels they have access to these facilities, if not in their neighborhood, in the immediate surrounding area.
Thank you. Let me see. We're moving to number 9, and then there's a follow-up question. Number 9, improve and enhance public and social infrastructure and public services in North Central. The question is, what social infrastructure needs to be amplified, and what does public services look like with political barriers?
Insightful question. We have heard so much about public services, the sense of dumping. And I'm just going to go as an example, the lack of maintenance of vacant lots, the lack of maintenance of some of the streets, etc. It's very interesting that many of those same concerns the neighbors have shared with us to date were exactly the same 20 years ago. We virtually word for word. So this is going to be a very important action or set of actions we're going to have to develop to actually deal with this over time. So the public and the social infrastructure, obviously the public refers to the public sector and their role and responsibility in the development and maintenance of your neighborhood. And that again ties very directly to the next one.
Yes, which is establish clear communication and accountability with the city of St. Louis. I don't see any comments or questions about that, but again, this is important because of what Tim outlined in his presentation, that the city has a plan and we have to fit into that plan and they have to approve our plan. John, anything you want to add to that?
No, that's a very, very important. The work product, the plan that you or as a community develop is going to be submitted to the city for their consideration for approval. And that's important in as much as once there's an approved plan, one can actually, as a community, you can go to the city and say, you know, how's this going to work? How can we improve and stop illegal dumping? I know that's really challenging all through the city for the city, but the idea that you can work out a way to have city representation and you working together to improve the situation is very, very important.
Thank you. And the next goal is establish a participatory decision-making process for residents to guide the future of the community. Let's see what we have here. What does accountability look like for elected officials, and how can community members assist in that action?
Very important. And so the 10 and 11 kind of also work together, because if you look at the plan from 20 years ago, it's an aspirational plan. It's a vision plan. It outlines a lot of recommendations. One thing the plan didn't do then is outline step-by-step process of what to do. So if you go back to Tim's presentation, you'll see that we start with a plan with all the big aspirations and slowly develop an implementation strategy that you all as the community are going to need to buy in, because you're not going to be able to implement everything at one point. You're going to have to make some decisions on where you start and what you're doing in order to move forward. So the participatory decision-making to guide the future of the community. When you have the plan, you still have to have action plans and keep going. This is you're setting up a process that you need to remain and guide as you move forward. Part of those detailed implementation plans have to work with the city. And therefore, back to number 10, communicating to the city what your plans are, your priorities are, and ask and work out how there can be mutual partnershiping on this. And then once that's agreed to, holding the city accountable for delivering that part of what you've agreed to. So in some ways, planning goes from this big plan towards you determining priorities and then making sure those priorities are achieved is part of the ongoing participatory role of the community. Your input doesn't stop at the adoption of the plan. I would argue it actually needs to ramp up after the plan, right? The plan is the first step, but the action and the prioritization becomes very important as you move forward. And a strong community voice is very important. A unified, strong, consistent community voice is very important. And you taking the opportunity and the leadership to guide your community moving forward.
Use that community camaraderie that came out in the earlier interviews to have a community voice.
Right.
And to highlight what John said, creating the plan is just the first part. The hard work where everyone needs to be involved, is implementing that plan and the projects. There's another question. Will the plan include a community members' bill of rights?
That's very interesting. And as we move forward tonight, I think the values perhaps might be the beginning of that. Very interesting, and I think this should be something we take back to the steering committee. Very, very, very interesting and an opportune idea there.
The last goal: ensure equity, inclusivity, resilience, sustainability, and justice for all residents. Let me see what we have here. Are there any questions? Oh, did you want to?
I can add to that. As Tim mentioned in his presentation, 2 years ago, the city worked on the equity indicators report. And that's a very important report. It has some equity indicators for neighborhood development. It's much broader than just the neighborhood. And then most recently, the city came out with what's called the 2020 vision, which is the Equitable Economic Development Plan, again, touched on in the presentation. These are all downloadable from the city. But one of the interesting strategies from the economic development perspective for inclusive growth was the foundation of growing the neighborhoods. Place-based neighborhood development was one of the 4 key economic strategies for the revitalization of St. Louis. So doing these neighborhood plans, you need to position yourself well, and they have quite a number of key recommendations as we move forward.
I think this is the final question for the goals section before we move on to the vision. Will the plan also include community benefits for those who are developers?
It will certainly point to that as a recommended strategy. And again, you know, a plan's a plan, and this is why implementation becomes very important, that if that is going to be implemented, it's, you know, the community needs to make sure that that's part and parcel of their discussions and the participatory decision-making process.
Great. Those are all the questions we have for the goals. Thank you. The goals, again, are the legs of this plan. So very important to take the time to go through them. When we met with the steering committee last week, most of the discussion was around the goals, because the goals, that's the foundation. So now we're going to go to the next slide, and we're going to discuss our preliminary community vision statement. And this is what you aspire your community to become over the coming years. And so I will read it out loud to you, and the words that are in bold are the subjects of the goals that we just went through, so you will see how it ties in. So the preliminary community vision statement is this: by 2030, the North Central community will be a healthy, whole, and vibrant community made up of a variety of housing and distinctive neighborhoods in an arts district that is well-maintained, safe, and inclusive for all residents. Centrally located and well-connected to all areas of the city and region. All residents will be able to easily access jobs, educational and healthcare facilities, community businesses, and other key amenities to ensure an excellent quality of life. Led by the people who call North Central home, the community will provide equal support and assist residents and stakeholders to thrive and chart their own future, this generation and the next. So I will give you a minute to think about that, to see if there are any questions or comments. John, do you want to add something?
No, I think
okay.
Well, I'll just say, you know, obviously the bold is trying to make the connections back to the goals. So, we talked about housing. We talked about these wonderful neighborhoods. We called them distinctive neighborhoods. They're well maintained, safety, inclusiveness, that's central located and well connected in order to provide all these amenities of the quality of life really is the second paragraph. And then, looking towards the future, led by the people. And that again comes to the importance of the continued participation and driving of the implementation of this plan.
Great, and I don't see any comments or questions. So we will move on to the next slide, which is the preliminary core value statement. And this is what you live by as a community, basically. I'm sure many of us have core values that we live by, and this is how, when decisions are made, you should consider the core values. So I will read them aloud to you, and then we'll see if you have any comments about or questions about any portion of it. As the members of the North Central community, we believe that everyone has a right to an excellent quality of life. Everyone has the opportunity to thrive in place, no matter our age or ability. Everyone is respected and provided equal consideration. We, the community, make decisions with transparency and provide opportunities for all residents and stakeholders to participate. We all share responsibility for improving the North Central neighborhoods and implementing the plan. And lastly, but not least, we are stewards of our community and environment for future generations. Any thoughts or comments about the preliminary core values statement? And I will give you a minute to think about that. And again, the goals, the community vision statement, and the preliminary core value statement was reviewed by the steering committee, and this is what we are presenting tonight. And we will take your feedback and the ideas that you had tonight and share with the co-chairs and the steering committee before they give final approval to these, because it's important, because the rest of the plan will be built on the goals, vision, and values. John, I don't see any questions or comments.
That's good. Hopefully we captured it. I'd be interested if the person who commented on the Bill of Rights, is this the type of thing they were thinking of?
We'll give that person some time to respond. Does this set the stage for a Bill of Rights? I'm not seeing any response at this time. And I don't see any other questions, so I think we will close this meeting out, John. John, thank you for answering the questions. We appreciate it. And again, if you need more time to think about your feedback, tonight's virtual meeting, along with a comment form, will be on our website no later than this Thursday, November 4th. That's this Thursday, November 4th. Again, our website address is northcentralstlplan.com, northcentralstlplan.com. You have until Wednesday, November 11th to submit your comments. So that gives you a week to submit your comments. And also, please go to our website and take our community well-being survey. John mentioned this earlier. We are still looking for and need your feedback. It will take you just a few minutes to fill it out. So please take that time and fill out the community well-being survey. We want to hear from you. And as for next steps, to put this all into context after tonight's meeting, the consulting team, as was mentioned, will review your feedback and, if necessary, modify the vision, values, and goals. And we will present the revised vision, values, and goals to steering committee members at their December 9th meeting. That's the next meeting of the steering committee for their approval. Thank you for participating in tonight's virtual meeting. We look forward to having you join us again when we have our next town hall meeting in early 2021. We don't have an exact date for that yet, but we will let you know. Thanks again for joining us.